What's up, everybody? Welcome to Johnny I Pro Show. I have here no other than the creative genius himself. That's a good one right there. Scott D'Amore, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Good. Now, I got to say now, what is up with you? There's a lot of stuff new right now that's up with you. Let the people know.
Yeah, I mean, look, World of Wrestling, things are always changing and moving, so it's been now here quite a few months here out here with Maple Leaf Pro, and excited as we build here towards the return to the Mecca, to the former Maple Leaf Gardens, now the Mattamy Athletic Center. So to me, May 10th is just a huge date. Returning to that address, returning to the corner there of Church and Carlton. It's just a big moment, one that's been years in the making.
Exactly. Now, I got to ask, before we get into that now, a little bit yourself. Like, what got you into wrestling, being involved in wrestling?
My first memories of wrestling really were in the hospital. My grandfather was sick. I grew up in the house with my grandparents, and my grandfather got sick, and we go see him in the hospital. It's a pretty scary environment when you're a kid, 6, 7 years old. And, he always watched wrestling, on the weekends, like a lot of people, and being in the hospital there on that little tiny TV with the 1 ear piece, right? Like, you didn't have two back then. You just had one to listen. And, sitting here with them, that was kind of like the one moment, the one time in the week when I felt okay being in the hospital with him. So that was kind of something that we connected on and shared. So it was that, and then obviously you kind of still as a kid, it's just kind of like a lot of what was here or there, and then really it was swept up in the rock and wrestling, WrestleMania and everything else, and all the pageantry of it all. So that's when it really kicked into gear.
Exactly. And I guess as you said, like a family affair too. I remember like even growing up, like WrestleManias. That's like one time that everybody just gets together, a pizza party, whatever it may be. It's really a family affair when it comes to wrestling.
Yeah, and like when I was younger, like we were not going to buy wrestling on pay-per-view.
No, I know we had
even actually before pay-per-view, I mean, you had closed circuit, and there's no way we were going to get a chance to go there and be able to do that. So a lot of it was, who of your friends has like the giant satellite dish, right? And one of my friends had a cafenillo, had a Greek coffee shop. So they had the giant satellite dish, and we could tune that thing, and then we'd VHS tape pay-per-views, and then we'd take turns bringing it home to watch it. So that was a big part of my childhood, yeah.
I love it. Who are your favorites growing up, wrestlers?
Oh, man. Growing up, obviously, I was a kid. I got tied up in the Hulk Hogan thing at one point because you had to be. But for me, the first heel was probably the Honky Tonk Man. Like he was cool. I always loved Dino Bravo, partially because I got to see Dino Bravo as a part of international wrestling when he had the dark hair. He was Italian. There was a connection there. I would see him on the local Channel 9 in Windsor. So when he showed up in WWE and had that blonde hair, I was just so upset that he had blonde hair and that he was French. And I was like, they just ruined it. Like, I met Dino Bravo in downtown Windsor when I was a kid. I got a chance to meet him. He was suit shopping. So he was probably the first wrestler that I met. So he was always one of the ones that I followed. Never got used to that blonde hair. Never got used to him being French, but he was one of my favorites.
I love it. Now, I got to listen up. How did you get involved with like Impact Wrestling that not too many people know of?
How did I get involved in Impact Wrestling? Honestly, I was my wrestling career was waning. I had really bad concussions, and it had slowed me down quite a bit. I had a lot of problems with that, and some could argue just a sheer lack of talent that was the biggest stumbling block for my career. But I did a tour as a tour manager for the World Wrestling All-Stars, and we were doing a tour in Europe, and on that tour was a gentleman by the name of Jeff Jarrett, who I had done one show in Vegas for the World Wrestling All-Stars, I think earlier that year. But then on this tour, we're going town to town. This was a couple weeks. It might have been 3 weeks on tour. I think it might have been. And it was leading right into Christmas. So I just remember thinking, like, my nephews are getting the best Christmas presents because I got this great gig. Was on that tour and was kind of in a different mindset. I was getting ready to dive more into the family business, which at the time my father's business was construction. So I was just kind of like, this is a tour. It's fun. I'm not really wrestling, although I ended up wrestling one night because of injuries, which was cool. But that I got to wrestle, not that people got hurt. And then I just, kind of chatted with Brett a little bit, with Jeff a little bit there. And after that, I was back home. I had actually buzzed down to the TNA offices because we had a little TV show we were producing. And our commercials were outdated. Like they weren't sending us updated NWA TNA commercials for Wednesday night. So I called the office thinking I'll get an operator or something, and Jeff Jarrett answers the phone. So I kind of like chatted with him for a minute there and kind of said, hey, this is why I'm calling. And, you know, after that, we always got fresh commercials. And I mentioned a young kid, Chris Sabin, who I thought he should take a look at. And that led to him saying, like, what are you up to? And we talked a little bit, and he said, why don't you come down here and check out what we're doing? And I always tell the story, and Jeff like always kind of says I exaggerate it, and I do not. I basically said, hey, anything I could ever do to help? He goes, well, you know, we're looking for like a match agent, like a producer for the matches. He goes, do you think you'd be helpful with that? I said, well, I've done some of it on a lower level, and I think I could contribute. And he goes, well, let me ask you this. He goes, I got 3 people in mind. He goes, I got Barry Windham, Mike Graham, and you. And he goes, who would you choose? And I go, well, if you want to go with the best wrestler and the one that people will have the most respect, like had the most storied career, it's Barry Windham. Yeah. If you want to have the person who has the most experience as a producer, well, Mike Graham was my very first producer in my first match in WCW. Years ago, I go, so it'd be Mike. And he goes, well, let me ask you, what would you say if I thought I was leaning towards you? And I'd say, well, honestly, I think you don't have enough money for Barry Windham or Mike Graham. And we had a good chuckle, and we're kind of off to the races from there. So that's kind of how I got my start, going down there every week for those weekly pay-per-views and getting to be a part of things there. And it was just such a great environment to learn in.
Exactly. And I got to say, you're going to go down as in history because you're the ones that actually changed as well the name from Impact back to TNA. How did that all come about right there?
Well, I mean, look, I've said this before with all due respect. I wasn't part of when it changed from TNA to Impact. I say that I owe a lot of things in my life to TNA wrestling. I was never really, like I was gone, so it wasn't my thing, but the Impact thing never sat right with me. When I came back, which was, again, ironically, through Jeff Jarrett and then with the guys at Anthem, it was Impact. One of the first things I said is, anyone considered going back to TNA? And I was quickly told, don't mention that. That talk's not allowed around here. So I was kind of like, okay, like I disagree, but went at it full bore with Impact. And then as we're sitting there and starting to look, we need to make changes. We need to do some things differently. I went in there and I was like, I actually said to Ed Nordholm, I know I'm going to get my ass handed to me for this, but we got to have this conversation about TNA wrestling. Like, it is effing ridiculous. We go around the world, when we're in Europe, when we're in Japan, we have such a hard time getting people to say Impact Wrestling because it's still TNA. Yeah. And it did get approved. So like that to me was one of the things that, like, I'm really proud of the work done by myself and the team during the Anthem era, I'll call it for myself. And one of the lasting things that I'm really happy is that I got to spearhead reviving and bringing back that TNA wrestling name, because I think it's so important to me. It's so important to so many others, like Josh Alexander, Sami Callihan. All these people have stories about how important this company was to them as fans, and for people in the industry, it's been really important over the years. So I love that name. I'll always have love for TNA wrestling. It'll always be a part of me, and I'll always be grateful, because I say the successes I have in my life, wrestling and otherwise, like in my regular business world that has nothing to do with pro wrestling, the lessons that I learned at Cumming Station in Nashville, Tennessee, those TNA offices, I carry those lessons. I learned them in the wrestling business, and I carried them in the real world. And anyone who thinks that they're quick-witted, anyone who thinks that they can be slick, and they're in the regular business world, they don't know nothing if they ain't been around the wrestling world. Like, wrestling world just BS's circles around people. So yeah, so I take those lessons that I learned, I always keep them in my mind and in my heart, and I use them in my daily life, and I'm very grateful for them.
Exactly. And we all want to thank you for bringing it back as well. TNA just sounds right. It just sits everywhere. Sits down.
It feels good, right? Yeah.
Exactly. I gotta say now, the manager of Team Canada.
Yeah.
Now, we all know who was a part of that, but now if you could somehow, somebody past and the present, make your new, or whatever it may be, modern day Team Canada, who would you add right there, right now?
A modern day Team Canada?
Yeah. Or you could add some guys from the past as well, like Brett, whoever. Shooting up, Brett.
Well, I mean, look, I'll tell you. Let me tell you this story quick, and it's a total sidebar. But I told you the story about when Jeff said about Barry Windham and Mike Graham. Well, we were doing the America's X Cup, and we had done Team Mexico, Team AAA, and Jeff and Dutch called me. They were in the creative room there. I was in Windsor. And they're like, hey, we're thinking of doing a Team Canada, because I'd kind of pitched it a couple weeks. I was like, oh, that's great. He goes, how Team AAA has, Antonio Pena here, and he's like the business guy. He's kind of like the spokesperson for him. He's there. He goes, yeah. He goes, we think Team Canada needs one of those. I go, absolutely. He goes, and Jeff goes, do you have anybody in mind? And I go, well, there's only one guy for this job. And Jeff goes, well, that's what me and Dutch were thinking. And I go, Bret Hart. And it's dead silence. And then Jeff goes, we were kind of thinking of going in a different direction. And I go, yeah, who? And he goes, well, we were thinking you. And I go, so did Brett say no, or can we not afford Brett? Which not affording was kind of a common theme in those early TNA days. It was tight, like we were doing everything we could, but it was tight. But the funny thing is, I kind of, when Jeff said, no, we want it to be you, I was kind of at a point in my career where I was like, I'm not a talent anymore. I hadn't been wrestling for a little bit. I was really happy working behind the scenes. I had this thought in my head, if I'm going to work behind the scenes, I can't be on air. So I said, Jeff, I really appreciate it, but the talent thing's kind of behind me. I just want to focus on working behind the scenes. So thank you, but I'm going to pass. And again, it's dead silence. And then Jeff goes, well, okay, how about I rephrase this? He goes, this isn't old Jeff asking his buddy Scotty D what he thinks. This is the vice president of TNA Entertainment telling a contracted individual what the hell we want out of him on Wednesday night. He goes, how do you answer that? I go, well, what should I wear?
I love it.
and we had a laugh, and he says, look, man, he goes, like wear whatever you want, wear a suit, do whatever. He goes, whatever. He goes, just keep in mind, it's only going to be for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Which it certainly wasn't. And then the one condition I gave him, which you'll know I certainly didn't live up to this, I said, I'll do this, obviously, because otherwise I'm fired. But I'll do this. But I'm not going to run around like some buffoon. Like, I'm not going to be one of these buffoonish, silly managers. I'm going to stand straight. I'm going to dress well. I'm going to speak very articulately.
Yes.
I'm going to be very articulate. I'm not going to be some idiot like walking around like a jackass. Jeff goes, no problem. So, of course, it was only a matter of weeks before I was wearing a jersey and jumping up and touching my toes and shadow boxing and barking at the camera and doing the curly shuffle and speaking with a French accent when I'm mad, even though I'm Italian. But if you go back, the first interview I ever do, I'm very serious. I wear a suit. I'm holding my papers like this because I thought that's what a serious manager did. And then it just didn't last, right? So I said to Jeff one time, I go, why did you even agree? He goes, we hung up on the phone, and Dutch looked at me and goes, hey, man, how long you think Scotty D's going to last being serious? And Jeff goes, he ain't going to make it through the first week. So yeah, that's my side story that just took us on a long, winding trail. I love Team Canada. It was a great time working with guys that I loved. Like we really were a team. We were a family. There was love and appreciation for everybody involved. If I was going to do a modern version, obviously Josh Alexander, Mike Bailey, then you start looking at it. There's Zach Patterson out in Montreal. There's ELP. I'd want to scour and see, because I think one of the things that made Team Canada cool is that like you didn't know any of them until you got out there and watched Team Canada. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of what made it work. So part of me would like to go, and I almost want to like erase, my last answer and say, like, Josh and Speedball don't need Team Canada. I think the best thing, I think in this day and age, certainly could include a female. I think that'd be important. There's a lot of female talent out there. I think taking 4 individuals, if that's the right number, that's what we used before, and just plopping them together and letting them grow as a team. And it was sink or swim for the original Team Canada. We were put in a lot of tough spots. Like, I remember Petey Williams' first pay-per-view match. He had came back from a dark match, and I had to grab him and say, hey, you're on first match on the pay-per-view in 6 minutes against Jerry Lynn and Juventud. and you're over, like, what's your finish? And Petey goes, I don't know. So it just sink or swim, and that's how it was with Bobby and Showtime and that crew. So I think there's a lot of great talent out there. You look at a Michael Allen, Richard Clark, you look at Psycho Mike, you look at Brent Banks, you look at all this talent. You look at Stu Grayson, right? I mean, he's a guy who was there. He was on TV and just decided, like, this doesn't work for me anymore. I'm gonna do my own thing. So I just think there's a lot of great Canadian talent out there. So I think really the hardest thing would be narrowing it down to who's the right mix and the right chemistry. And I have to kind of see those guys in the same space to see it, because I think what made Team Canada work was you never knew if Petey Williams was hurt, because everybody worked just as hard to hide it and make up for it and cover each other. So I think another Team Canada, when the time is right, as long as it's not Lance Storm's stupid WCW version of it. I love you, Elix Skipper, but it makes me throw up in my mouth that you were a Canadian. But so was Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who I love too. But as long as it's 4 legitimately talented Canadians, I'm down.
They bring it back for sure.
Yeah.
I got to say now, let's get right into the nitty gritty. As I like to say, I'm excited. It's like WrestleMania for me as a Canadian. Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Yeah. Now, you've becoming like the owner of it as well, just right now. What made you want to buy into it and take that?
I mean, look, I first acquired the rights to the old Maple Leaf Wrestling at a time when I was pretty disconnected from the wrestling business, but still had some passion for it in my heart. And just the idea that it was sitting there and it was available, I just wanted, owning a piece of it was important, and trying to figure out a way to restore the luster and that legacy to it, because it seemed to be in a lot of circles forgotten. Because really, you think about it, like the Tunnies stopped promoting independently in 1984 when they sold to Vince. And I think WWF continued the name until about 95, but it wasn't quite the same, but it still at least was there. But then from 95 on, it was just gone, right? I mean, next thing you know, there's no Maple Leaf Wrestling. It just slowly, starts to fade away.
Yeah.
So I think it was around 2012 when I acquired the rights, and it was just a mishmash of old VHS tapes and some film reels and everything else. And if anybody out there has footage of the old Maple Leaf Wrestling and you're willing to share it, like, would love to take a look at it. And if it's something we don't have in our collection, to add it, because our goal is to get it out where everybody can see everything that exists. Yeah. Because so much of the old wrestling was destroyed because they just didn't bother to maintain. So that's 2012-ish. I think, and I couldn't quite figure out what to do. I was kind of working through different things. I was working with Jeff Jarrett again, who our careers do a lot of this, on the GFW stuff, and some stuff with New Japan. And then the Impact thing came, and then that kind of like went full in on that. So it just kind of like kept simmering. So then, when I got let go from TNA, from Anthem last year, sitting there and was trying to think about what to do. And first I had to like cool and like get away, right? Too emotional. It's too raw.
Too much, yeah.
So I had to get away and get to a point where I was ready to do something from a positive position. Yeah. So I was sitting there, and part of it was, look, last year I turned 50. And
congrats on that big 50.
Thank you. A
lot
of people think I wouldn't make it. They'd say I'm living in bonus years. But certainly by the way I've looked after myself, sometimes I might be. But everybody's trying to plan, what are we going to do, for Scott's 50th birthday? So I'm trying to think of anything to distract from my 50th birthday. So I chose literally August 8th, my birthday, my 50th birthday, as the time to announce. And the idea was there would be something else to talk about that effing day other than the fact 50th. That I'm 5-0. So I just, one thing wrestling teaches you, control the narrative. So I wanted to try to steer the narrative a little bit in that direction. So I hijacked my own 50th birthday party, or birthday, I should say, in order to have something to talk about other than my age. And it's been a cool project. Yeah. And the amount of people that have came together and worked on it, and the amount of people that have shown support for it. And it's something I care about as somebody who, like, you've heard the Speedball Mike Bailey story about getting banned and, how he had to spend 5 years. And that happened. Like, ELP had issues, and Nicole Matthews. And there's so many good Canadian talents over the years that, that border, what is it, the 49th parallel, that U.S. border, they say it's an invisible border, and it just isn't invisible to us.
It's in front of you.
It's right there, and you're very clear when you're crossing that border, and your butthole tightens. because you don't have work authorization, like, and I dealt with it, right? I got held for exclusion. Luckily they ended up dropping the charges, so I didn't spend 5 years, like Mike did. Actually, it would have been 2 years when I did, but I spent like close to 2 years. It was 16 months, and to live in Windsor, Ontario, where from most places in the city you can see Detroit, but you can't go there anymore. Yeah. You can't just not go there to wrestle. You now can't go there. I can't go to a Red Wings game or a Tigers game. I can't go see my buddies. I can't go to Greektown. I can't go to Mexican Village. I can't do any of this stuff, which is how my life I'd grown up with, and it just turned my life upside down. And part of MLP's mandate is let's give an opportunity for Canadians to be seen, because you have that chicken and the egg problem. You have that problem where it is, one, how do you get this opportunity, to be a star on TV? Well, you need exposure, right? You need exposure. People need to see you. Well, how do you get the exposure? Well, all the shows that have exposure, for the most part, a lot of the time, are predominantly in the U.S. So, yes, there's rare opportunities to go to Japan, or there might be something going on in Europe here or there, although there's been some ups and downs in the European market, but they face the same struggles. So my thing was, let's build a platform of our own. Let's build a Canadian platform that can feature the very best of Canadians alongside the very best in the world. And it's going to be a platform large enough that, damn it, everybody's going to have to effing pay attention to this. We're going to put on amazing shows. We're going to have unbelievable production, and the entire effing wrestling world is going to have to stop and acknowledge how good Canada is at this. And you look at it historically, whether you're talking about Killer Kowalski, whether you're talking about, Whipper Watson, whether you're talking about Bret Hart, Don Leo Jonathan, Edwin Carpentier, Mad Dog Vachon,
Andre the Giant,
Bruno
San Martino, Bret Hart, the list goes on.
You have all of these. Bruno, not Canadian, although he's he's from the Abruzzi region of Italy, just like me. So thanks for throwing
out my Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But just the Canadians themselves. In this day and age, I wonder how many of those guys might not get that opportunity in today's system, right? Because there's no Kiniski out running in Vancouver. There's no Stu running in Calgary. There's no Vachon or Rougeau's or Bravo or anybody running Montreal. There's no Dupree in Eastern Canada. So where are Canadians going to get that opportunity when everything is so U.S. centric? So MLP, we're going to build that platform. We're going to put the Canadians on them. We're going to let them shine. And I think so far we've done that. And I think May 10th is an amazing culmination. Like, when you talk about historic wrestling venues in professional wrestling, you've got Madison Square Garden. You've got Budokan, right, in Japan. You've got, the Ryogoku, the sumo arena, and those things, you got York Hall, some stuff. I don't want any Brits coming at me saying, hey, you forgot about us. I wrestled in a tent in Germany. That was pretty cool. But you have these famous venues, but really, Maple Leaf Gardens was one of the most iconic. And it was one of those things on Sundays. It didn't matter if it was Bruno or Backlund, whoever, from WWF. It didn't matter if it was Flair or Race or Dusty Rhodes or whatever from Crockett and from the NWA. I mean, no matter if it was Bockwinkel or whoever coming from the AWA. It didn't matter if it was Baba coming over from Japan. The very best, they came together and they came to Maple Leaf Gardens, and they wrestled there and put on some of the most amazing super cards before there was even a term super card.
Exactly.
So the venue's so iconic in wrestling, and then it's just so iconic, there's nothing more Canadian. The Maple Leafs, for better or for worse, people hate to hear this, but it's Canada's team. And when the Leafs go and they play in other cities around Canada, you're going to see blue jerseys. There's a reason why. You go to games in Florida where the Leafs are playing, and half the arena is wearing blue and white, because they're the mother effing Toronto Maple Leafs. Deal with it. And they came out of there every Saturday. So Saturday was hockey night in Canada. Sunday, Maple Leaf Wrestling.
Yes. And I previously had Bret Hart on there, and I don't know if you've seen that clip. I believe I sent it to you, and he just talked about wrestling, the Canadian scene. He's like, I'm so happy. He says that Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's coming back. Then he did a whole thing about it, talked about it, jumping off at, he said he went to Calgary, then he came here, he says to Toronto, they dropped him off, he said in Hamilton, then he busted here just to go to the shows. And he just showed the love for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. You could just see it in his eyes, he's so happy that's coming back.
Yeah, and I mean, I just love, and for those that don't know, go back and check out some of the stuff. I love the fact that Bret Hart, when he came to Maple Leaf Wrestling, couldn't be Bret Hart.
Exactly.
Because they already had a Bret Hart, albeit with 2 T's. So they called him Buddy Hart.
Yeah, so Buddy Hart, yes.
Buddy the Heartthrob Hart, which I think Bret
Heartthrob
despises.
Oh, for sure.
But do you know who the Bret Hart who was already in Maple Leaf Wrestling was?
Tell me.
It was Barry frickin' Horowitz.
Really?
So the fact that Bret Hart could not use his real name because Barry Horowitz was using it is one of the most like ironic and comical things in wrestling.
Like craziness. Now I gotta say now is this.
And by the way, just so Barry, if you're out there and you're watching, don't get hot. I love you. Barry Horowitz was wonderful to me when he didn't need to be. When I was so far I wasn't gum on shoe, and he was at least patting himself on the back. Wonderful guy, made sure I had a right. Anybody. Love you, Barry Horowitz. Don't get hot at me, but you should have let Bret use his own name. No.
Lots of love to Barry.
Like Barry had any say. I'm sure he didn't choose to be Bret Hart. He got handed the name.
I love it. Now I got to say this now. The match card.
Yeah.
Which to me has, I'm calling it the Canadian WrestleMania. Because we have it, like, let's just be serious for a second. The talent that you have here is insane. As we say right here, obviously, we have right here, it's the inaugural Women's Championship. Giselle versus Kylie. That match itself speaks for itself. Let's talk about that match right there.
Yeah, look, I think it's the perfect example. You've got a fantastic, seasoned international talent in Kylie, who, look, Kylie's had her ups and downs. She's been very honest about that with her mental health. She's in the best spot I've ever seen her. There's no question when Kylie's on, and she's one of the very best. And then you've got Giselle, who's a Canadian talent, born and bred. I mean, originally from the Philippines, but her wrestling training from Lance Storm at Storm Academy. Lance, you can send me the $5 for the plug. All the way through, true Canadian, in a title match. Like you said, there just wasn't a Canadian champion in the old Maple Leaf Wrestling because... don't shoot me. This is them talking, not me. But I remember even when I broke into wrestling, that you had wrestling, and then you had side attractions. The side attractions were giants, midgets, and women. Right? Like they were like, they'll bring the women in once in a while and they'll draw because it's a special attraction. But you couldn't certainly do it all the time. Well, now we've certainly seen how stupid that concept is.
It's just like the movie Queen of the Ring. Have you watched it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
It's a similar fact to what you just said there.
Yeah, and I mean, like what the women had to overcome, right? That's why one of the things in my career I'm proudest of is my involvement in the TNA knockouts and getting an opportunity to build a platform where women could be taken seriously, right? So yeah, I think that's a great match, and I think that that'll rock the gardens like many matches have in the past, and it's long overdue that we crown a women's Canadian champion.
Exactly. Now, how about the 20-man gauntlet? Now, stars from like TNA, New Japan Wrestling, AEW, and that's crazy. And it's also to crown the MLP Canadian Championship, correct? Like the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to crown a new Canadian champion. And I had a couple people ask, and I mean, maybe we should get these out probably on the social media and that, but this is a gauntlet. This is a TNA style gauntlet for those who are listening. Gauntlet for the Gold, like the very first pay-per-view of NWA TNA where they crowned, and we've done it many times over the years. It's 2 men start, and then at a certain interval, another wrestler comes in, Royal Rumble style, we'll say. And the difference between a Royal Rumble, respectfully, and a TNA style gauntlet, which I always loved and I thought was a great tweak we did to it, was it's that Royal Rumble style until it comes down to the last 2 people. Then when we pause, slide in a referee, you ready, call for the bell, and now it's 1 fall, pinfall or submission. So that's how, because you don't want to crown a new Canadian champion by throwing somebody over the top rope.
I'm excited.
You
I got goosebumps. I'm
excited.
excited.
Pinfall or submission. So I'm pretty stoked about that. And the belts look freaking awesome.
Yeah. And I got to say now, is Alexander a part of this match?
Yeah, Alexander's a part of this match, and then you might have seen the little stuff
match,
with him
QT
in
Marshall,
QT
yes.
Marshall. So, Josh is Josh, right? And I mean, he's...
How happy are we now for that? What's happening with him? Just so happy.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for a better guy. A guy who lost his career with the neck injuries and everything else and has battled back and is getting everything that he deserves there. So, yeah, he's the perfect example of that lunchbox Canadian attitude, right? Like, this is a guy who... grew up, comes from like a not great upbringing, but overcame all that to become a wrestler and start doing pretty well for himself. And then they turn around and tell him like, okay, this is over. Like, you can't do this no more. Like, if you fall the wrong way one time, you could be crippled. You could be in a wheelchair. You could be a quadriplegic. So, like, does he bitch about it? Does he cry? Does he go on social media and say, this is suck, it's unfair? No, he kind of quietly, with a little fanfare, but very little, retires, moves on, gets a regular job as a tradesman, goes out there and does everything to support his family like so many other Canadians do. And never once did I hear him bitch about it. And then lo and behold, miracles happen, during a checkup. The doctor kind of says, like, your neck's fantastic. Like, and he gets cleared to wrestle again. And then from that point on, there's no stopping him, right?
Walking weapon.
So you look at what he's done and what he's built. So very happy for him. So yeah, Josh, it's a typical Josh Alexander fashion, is going to pull double duty. He's going to go out there and settle his score with QT Marshall, and then move on to be one of the 20 guys in the gauntlet for that Canadian title.
Must be favorites to win this gauntlet as well. I'm assuming.
I think Josh Alexander's got to be at least one of the favorites in anything he's in now. Like wrestling QT Marshall, certainly probably if you're doing Vegas odds on this, probably adjust it a little bit, especially because you never know what you're dealing with QT, right? He's a little slimy,
yeah, exactly.
In the most lovable way. No, I mean, he's gonna run his mouth. He's gonna cheat. He's gonna probably have somebody try to run and interfere, and that's QT, and here we get to go out there. So I get Josh's logic. The logic is really simple. It's you got a problem with me, no problem, let's settle that, and then I'll go on and deal with this other thing.
Josh also has Don Callis coming, right?
Yeah, which is going to be interesting to see, right? You
never know.
So Don will be there. Like it was kind of a bummer to not have Don at Mayhem.
Yeah.
He had some stuff he had to be with family. He had to be with family for, so he handled that. But it was a great opportunity. Right, gave us an opportunity to bring in Veda Scott, who's always out there, just like pounding away on the pavement, from show to show. She's hitting the road, she's getting out there, and she's announcing and wrestling. So having her do that, getting a chance to spot out D'Lo Brown, who I think, like color me biased because he's like a brother to me, but I don't think gets the love that he deserves. Like there is a point in time where he was so freaking over. Like as somebody who traveled with him, he was so freaking over. It didn't matter where we went. You couldn't have somebody not give the head bob and D'Lo Brown, shaky. So I mean, like getting him to go out there and be part of that and be part of the broadcast team. So that was cool. And now we've got Don back in the seat, and I respectful of all the other announcing teams in the wrestling industry. I think the day that Don sat down next to Morrow, we had the best announced team in wrestling, hands down.
Top tier, exactly. And I got to say this now. I looked into my little history Nardwuar stack here. Now, the last time NWA title was defended at the Gardens was in 1984. Now, you're bringing it back here for that match. I believe his name is, I know, how do you say it? Latimer,
yep.
Yeah, versus Stu Grayson.
Yep.
Now, just take that in right there. You're making history here.
Yeah.
The last time was 1984. NWA title was defended at the Gardens. Now, after how that's oh my god, it's like 50-some years plus. Like creative genius, as I say. Like just let's talk about that history behind that match right there.
Yeah, I mean, look, Maple Leaf Wrestling had so many eras in its original incarnation, and one of the ones that people certainly look very fondly on was the NWA era, the Jim Crockett Promotions era, and a big part of that was the 10 pounds of gold coming up to Maple Leaf Gardens on a regular basis and being defended. That all ended in 1984, obviously, because that's when Tunney sold to WWE. So clearly at that point, you were never going to see an NWA title match there again. So after 40 plus years, having Tom come in, who is a great underrated talent. I mean, you look at this guy, the physique, the athletic ability, his charisma, his talking. Like if you go back to the stuff he's doing, his Bram and TNA and everything else, like this dude, when he was doing like the devil on the shoulder stuff with Nick Aldis, just great stuff. So he's a prototypical traveling NWA world champion. So we're thankful of Billy and the folks at the NWA allowing these championship matches to happen up here. And again, Stu Grayson, a guy who was right there. He was at the dance with AEW and kind of decided, this isn't really the right path for me. So he came back to Canada and reshuffled his deck in his life and, has a lot of other great things on the go in his life, but still has that passion. So is out there pounding it out. And, like I just heard that, him and Sheldon had a great one at C4. The other night, and I think Stu's the perfect type of guy to go in there. He's an unbelievable Canadian talent there, and I think that's gonna be a great match.
Banger of a match, that's for sure. Like I said, you have appearances from Cardona, Gabe Kidd, Carl Anderson, Doc Gallo, and then just name a few. Are these guys in the gauntlet, or you can't say right now?
No, and when does this drop?
Tomorrow.
Oh.
Right? You want to go right now? When we get home, edit it.
I know, it's okay.
No, it'll be tomorrow, 100%.
Yeah. No, look, I just... I think you'll start to see the matches roll out here in the next week or so.
Plug it in.
So you'll see them start to roll. And honest to God, like I said earlier, the wrestling business BS is better than any other business in the world. I mean that with love. But no BS on this. Like, I am truly proud of this card, because I think when you see this card, when you see the amount of people coming, when you see Miyu and you see Serena and you see the Good Brothers and you see the guys from New Japan and everything else, I honestly feel we've got a card that from top to bottom, like this card we looked at and went, oh, like this really should be 2 shows.
Stacked.
It really should be 2 shows. So I think people are going to be pretty darn impressed with the card. I think it's one of the most well-rounded cards I've ever been a part of putting together, and I think it's a card that is very very suited to be in one of the most iconic venues in the industry and in our country. Let's
get better than that. And now the tickets are available also if you want to come in person, but you also have a deal with Triller, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is tickets. Like, I actually just looked earlier today, and there's like 120 tickets left out of what was initially put out. So I actually got to talk with Ticketmaster tomorrow. I think we're going to look at releasing some additional seats, but they're moving. We're just under 2 weeks, and really happy with the response from people and starting to see the excitement. I was out at a sports card expo today, and I just showed up just to say hello, talk to a few people, and I had a bunch of people stop me that were saying hey, I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm excited to to go to the Gardens. I'm excited to see wrestling again. Thank you for bringing Maple Leaf back. So I'm stoked. I've been saying for 20 plus years, when I first started saying I was going to run a show in Maple Leaf Gardens, I was a blithering idiot who never should have uttered those words, because it was so far-fetched and stupid for me to even be it's one of those things. I always say, thank God in this world there's people too ignorant to know how dumb they are, because or I guess it'd be too dumb to know how ignorant they are. I'm not sure, but I'm talking about myself, so it can't be that insulting. But literally, I decided I'm going to run Maple Leaf Gardens, and I said that, and this was probably maybe 99, 2000, 2001. It was so ridiculous to even say. But as we sit here all these years later, I never got to wrestle there. I got to wrestle in Skydome.
Wow.
I got to wrestle in the Joe Louis Arena, which is where I grew up watching hockey, where as a 6-year-old I watched the crowd stand up and give Gordie Howe Mr. Hockey, like a 10-minute standing ovation. I got to wrestle at the Palace of Auburn Hills. I've got to wrestle in Cork and Hall. I've got to be part of an event, at Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome, Sumo Arena, all these places. I tried at Sumo Arena, I wanted to leave my boots in the ring. I literally it doesn't get any better than this. I'm never wrestling again. Well, that was in 2010 maybe. So clearly that would have made a liar out of me. But what wrestler ever really sticks with a retirement step? But yeah, I never got to be part of a wrestling event in Maple Leaf Gardens. So now here in 2025, after 25 years of running my mouth and saying we're going to do it, we're going to do it. The one thing, I'll be honest with you, Johnny, I literally, there's a brief moment in time where I thought, man, I can go in the gauntlet. You never know. Never say never. I can go in the gauntlet, right? I can go out there. I want to walk that aisle in Maple Leaf Gardens. And look, we have such a great crew, even though they could murder me in there. They would have took it easy on me. They would have protected me, and they would have been safe with me. But I don't deserve to be in there.
Never say never?
Well, maybe on the comeback show. But I'm not doing it on this one. There was just so many people that was hard to fit on this show that deserved to be on this show. As much as the little kid in me wanted to be part of the show and maybe perform on it as a wrestler, I don't deserve that. This is about wrestlers now, not about me or what I want. This is about wrestlers now.
But
so
I think what will make it really good is this. Now, I'm not preaching a petition to get in there, but as a star of the show, will you be out there giving your speech or like welcome to Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling? You have to. I mean, I'm not pressuring you, but like, you know, like it just makes total sense. Like, I don't know how the show's going to start off, but as a person that brought it back, the creative genius, as I call you, have a couple words to the fans.
I mean, maybe, you know, it's funny. I never planned those things. It's like even like that first TNA TV show back with Josh Alexander and Will Ospreay. Like literally the promo ended up cutting where I say TNA's back, it's never going away, whatever, and I throw the mic and I should have fined myself $1,000. But I ended up getting fired, so it's fine. But that whole promo was literally because we were just like 6 minutes short on television time. It's like, what the F are we gonna do? So Dreamer came to me and he's like, you need to go out and you need to cut a promo, which is Tommy's answer to everything sometimes. But I was like, I looked at Lance Storm, who is the most even-keeled, like logical person in the world. And I looked at him and go, Lance, what do you think? He goes, I absolutely think it's the right idea. I was like, okay, well, that's the only thing under the sun that Dreamer and Lance agree with each other on. So I'll go do it. So maybe I probably I might. Give my arm a little twist. Give it a twist. Give it a twist. Okay, I'll go out there. Oh, jeez, John.
And I give you a pound as well.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, I got to say, though, as we're winding down, what do the fans have in store attending May 10th or even watching at home at the comfort of their house?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's going to be a special night. I think I can already feel it. You know, the people that are excited, we're going to have, like I was dealing with it earlier today. Like I think between alumni and family of alumni, we're going to have 40, 50 people from the original Maple Leaf Wrestling in the building. We've got some people there that are such a part of this iconic history that having them here for this event, I think, is truly special. And I can't wait to see some of the stars of the past, meeting some of today's stars and interact. I know there's a lot of people that are excited about going to that building because, you know, even though the hockey arena looks different now, right? It's on the 3rd floor. It's smaller. Like, I just went there a few weeks ago, and I mean, I pulled up in the Uber, you know, like everybody else, like on my phone, sending messages, this is bullshit, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm here, oh, thank you. I got out, and I looked, and I stopped, and I went, there's the yellow brick building, there's the marquee, still says Maple Leaf Gardens, and I just went, holy. Yeah. And then I went in it, and you have to go up 2 escalators. And I was like, okay, it's kind of cool. And you can still see the exterior wall right from the inside. Yes. And they've got all kinds of cool stuff to look at about the history of the building. They don't have wrestling stuff there, which really needs to change. So please, Mattamy Athletic Center, like the university there, please put up a display to wrestling. It's so iconic. But then when I walked into the hockey arena, it's that ceiling. It's the original ceiling.
The feels you get.
And I just sat there and it just kind of hit me and I went like, oh damn, like this is happening. So I think it's going to be amazing. Like we talked about, the card is unbelievable. I think it's stacked. I think the energy in that building will be amazing. I'm confident we got a murderer's row of talent. We've got a murderer's row of production people working behind the scenes on this. And if you've seen the stuff we put out there on social media and digitally, and thank you. And because I didn't any of it, like I can barely use an iPhone. I bro, I could get you to help me with my phone after the show, maybe. But no. Like the videos that we've been putting out, the graphics, like we want everything to be world class because it deserves to be world class. MLP is about being world class. We go into this venue. I think whether you're in that building, and I do think there's a good chance that we'll sell out. We'll have a packed house there cheering on and going crazy in that iconic building. And if you can't be there because you're not in Toronto or just because you can't make it down or whatever else, well then like $30. And just like we used to do in the old days, like you talked about your pay-per-views, and I have people always tell me the stories about how even though our Wednesday night pay-per-views were only $9.99, the amount of people like Sammy Callahan and that would say, hey, we get 10 guys together, so there's enough a dollar each, like, and that's, we just do it every Wednesday. And thinking, there's no way Sammy Callahan didn't steal these pay-per-views like everybody else did. But no, look, $30, you get this pay-per-view, you get to be a part of history from the comfort of your own home, and you get 4, 5, 6 people together, throw a party, enjoy it. Wrestling is meant to be enjoyed with other people. So if you're in the arena, You're enjoying it with thousands of people. Most importantly, the people that are there with you, that came with you in that shared experience. But if you can't have that in the building, then have it in the comfort of your own living room. Put down your money. I promise you, all the talent from around the world has come together. All of the amazing talent and hardworking people behind the scenes that have come together. If you put your money down on MLP Wrestling, if you tune in or show up on May 10th, you will get your money's worth and more. And I've made this promise before. I will continue making it. If you, at the end of the night on May 10th, feel that you didn't get your money's worth, then hit me up. I'll refund your freaking money, because there's no way you can honestly look yourself in the mirror and say you didn't get your money's worth when you see MLP Wrestling.
Exactly. Now, I got to say, we want to thank you for bringing back MLP here and just making, as I say, wrestling's cool again. It is definitely cool in Canada. Thanks to you. Bring it back to the Gardens. I'm going to get goosebumps talking about this. We're excited, and we're so ecstatic to be there, especially that day where you can watch it on TV as well, guys. Triller. And now, last off, sign off. When it's all said and done, what do you want the fans to remember Scott D'Amore as I call him the creative genius?
You know what? Somebody who was a pudgy, marginally sort of athletic kid from small town Windsor, a town that hadn't produced anybody since Abdullah the Butcher in the wrestling business. And like I said, like thank God for the ignorant bliss of not knowing what you can't do, because it allows you to go out there and do things. So nobody would have said that I can make a living in professional wrestling. People laughed at me. 5'9", pudgy guy. Actually had a pretty good vertical, but slow as molasses. Like, I remember my football coach said I started running my 40-meter dash on Wednesday and I finished it on Friday morning. Guys, it was a 5'2". It was not that slow. It was pretty decent for an O-lineman in Canada. But no, just someone who's passionate about the business and just tried to help people. And, whether it's the Machine Guns or Rhino or Bobby Roode or my legacy, I hope in this industry lives on in football, they call it the coaching tree, right? You have your assistant coaches that go on and become head coaches and teach others, and your system lives on. I think that when you look at it, the people I've been blessed enough to work with, try to help, give them an opportunity. I think that my legacy lives on with those people and with those people that believe in the fundamentals of professional wrestling, the fundamentals of show up, work hard, do it once, do it right. And then if you don't do it right, do it again and again and again. That's what I hope. But when they think of me, just think, you know what? I hope I made you laugh. I hope I love when people come up to me and say, God, I hated you. I just hope I made you feel something, made you feel happy, made you feel mad. Had one guy tell me, hey, remember you bottle whizzed past your head in Columbus, Ohio? And I go, yeah. He goes, that was me. Don't throw stuff at us. But the emotion, yeah. If I can make you feel something, if I can make you share a moment with your friends, family, whatever, then just you did something right. Then I did something.
Exactly. Can't thank you enough, Scott.
All right,
thank
man,
you so much. May 10th, it goes down, guys. Creative genius himself, Scott D'Amore. Thank you so much.
How much do I owe you for all these creative genius
I said
plugs?
about 6 times, so about $60, 10 each.
50% off?
30. There you go. Call it.
Deal.
There you go. And we're out. Thank you so much. Oh, that was perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Can I get take a photo?
Sitting or?
I'll do it then both of them together.